Imagine a perfect world, a world of powerful empires connected by trade and culture, a world rich beyond imagination. But a nightmare was stalking this world, a storm of faceless men from the sea. They would erase cities from maps and empires from memory. Only one empire survived to write down their name: the Sea Peoples. Before the darkness, there was a golden age. A brilliant, interconnected world ruled by titans. In the west, the Mycenaeans, lords of the Aegean, they built palaces of mythic grandeur. And their kings, rich with bronze and gold, believed their power was absolute. It was an age of breathtaking art and high culture. To the south, the eternal kingdom of Egypt, a civilization already ancient, commanded by living gods. Pharaoh's authority was unquestioned, his armies seemingly invincible. And in the rugged north, the Hittite Empire, a powerful kingdom of mountain fortresses. They were the masters of a new, deadly secret: the art of iron. But these great empires were not always rivals. They were partners. A complex web of trade connected them all. And for a time, a delicate peace was maintained through diplomacy. For 300 years, this vibrant world knew almost nothing but prosperity. It seemed as if the Golden Age would last forever, but beyond the edge of their maps, something was stirring. But the Golden Age was built on sand, and the tide was beginning to turn. They came without warning. Confederation of warriors from across the sea. Their origins, a mystery. Their motive, a terrifying enigma. They were not disorganized pirates. They were a disciplined, unified force, moving with a single, devastating purpose. Where they landed, civilization ended. They possessed strange new weapons and tactics that baffled the great armies of the age. Fear was their greatest weapon. Panic spread faster than their ships could sail. Word began to spread from the coastlands, whispers of a new, unstoppable enemy. Kings and pharaohs who had once squabbled over territory now faced a common existential threat. Clay tablets baked in the fires that destroyed their cities carry the last desperate words of kings begging for help that would never arrive. The world held its breath. The storm had arrived. The storm now fell upon the great empires. The Hittites, the masters of iron, were the first to face the full, terrifying fury of the Sea Peoples. They answered with the thunder of their chariots, the most feared weapon of the Bronze Age. But the invaders' tactics were new, brutal, and terrifyingly effective. At the gates of their mighty capital, Hattusa, the old world made its stand against the new. Their king fought not for glory, but for the survival of his people. But it was not enough. An empire that had lasted for 500 years was wiped from the face of the earth. Across the sea, the same fate befell the Mycenaeans. Their golden palaces became their tombs. Their art turned to ash. Only one of the great powers remained: Egypt, the last bastion of the Bronze Age. At the mouth of the Nile, Pharaoh Ramesses III gathered his entire fleet for a final, desperate stand. The battle that followed would decide the fate of the known world. Egypt threw everything it had at the invaders, fighting with the courage of a civilization on the very brink of extinction. The pharaoh himself led the charge, a final heroic symbol of defiance against the encroaching darkness. Against all odds, the Egyptians held the line. The invasion was repelled. It was a victory. but a victory that cost the world. The Sea Peoples were finally stopped, but their work was done. The great trade routes that were the lifeblood of the world vanished. The great cities fell silent. A dark age descended upon the Mediterranean. Writing was forgotten in many lands. Knowledge was lost. For the next 400 years, the vibrant, interconnected world fell into silence. The storm passed. The invaders, whoever they were, vanished back into the mists of history. But in their wake, they left a deafening silence. For 3,000 years, the story of the collapse was lost, surviving only as whispers in myth and carvings in stone. On the victory walls of his temple, Pharaoh Ramesses III immortalized the faces of his enemies: the Shardana with their terrifying horned helmets, the feathered Peliset, who would one day be known as the Philistines, the Shekelesh, the Jeker. This was not a single tribe. It was a coalition, a commonwealth of destruction. But the greatest question remains unanswered. Where did they come from? The historical record is silent. There are only theories. Were they victims themselves? Refugees of a great climate disaster, a catastrophic drought that starved the old lands and forced an entire generation onto the sea. A great migration of desperate people, carving a path of destruction not out of malice, but out of a raw will to survive. Or was it a conspiracy, a great betrayal, an uprising of mercenary armies who, seeing the great empires weaken, turned on their former masters and tore the world apart for gold? Perhaps there was no single answer. Perhaps the Golden Age had simply grown too complex, too fragile, and the slightest pressure was enough to make the whole system shatter. We may never know the truth. The Sea Peoples remain a ghost in our own history, a chilling reminder that even the greatest, most powerful civilizations can vanish, leaving behind only ruins, a few scattered words in stone and echoes. In the silence,